These days, more and more companies are on the hunt for full-stack developers, and more engineers are calling themselves full-stack engineers. I'm one of them, and let's be honest, we are all kind of lying. This whole full-stack thing, it's like an animal classification issue. We've got horses, we've got stags, but a rainbow-maned one-horned magical creature, that's not real. Still, some folks want to ride horses. That's fine. Others want to mount stags on their walls. And yeah, they both love unicorns. But even they know they'll never catch one. Because they're not real. So why do we act like unicorns are common in software engineering? I say full stack, and it sure could be like mobile development, could be IoT, could be embedded. But let's be honest, web technologies, web development is employing still the most people. So let's start with what it actually takes to build a real, scalable and widely used, so many users, a web application. Think like Facebook, YouTube, or your bank's web portal. Let's go from the top. We have the page that's opening in the browser. That's HTML for the structure, JavaScript for the behavior, and CSS for the appearance. Now, nobody's actually writing HTML, JavaScript, and CSS files and then just, upload it to a web server and show that for huge applications. So, for being full stack, one must know at least one modern technique to get these final results. How do you get them? You could generate the HTML from PHP, still very widespread. TSX or even XML. Maybe you could write it yourself with some templating solution. And the same goes for JavaScript and CSS. Even just barely talking about the libraries with tens of thousands of regular developers using them, there are dozens in multiple languages. But never mind that, we have a website, let's assume. How will it perform any actions? It will need, obviously, some sort of state management to handle the unavoidable complexity of large systems. Also, the audience is obviously diverse because we have many users as established, so it must also have internationalization, it must have accessibility for keyboard users and screen readers. We also want it to be fast and load quickly, otherwise user will leave sooner or later, leave us for a better site. So we might need to be familiar with lazy loading, so we don't load the whole page, every single component it has in one go. Instead, just what we need. And maybe we could even utilize things like server-side rendering. And remember, these are only the must-haves for a large-scale application, not some random feature like drag and drop that would also have like tons of options, many libraries to choose from. But I mean, who cares? You learn one today, another tomorrow. But maybe we also want this whole thing to be reliable. So we write some tests, unit tests, end-to-end tests, something in between. With what? Jasmine, Jest, Mocha, Chai, Sinan, Karma. I guess it's all the same but different, but still the same, right? But never mind testing, we also need some sort of a backend maybe, right? So we need to store the data somewhere after all. Not to mention our complex business logic, like folding one JSON into another, which is like what 90% of the applications out there are doing. So there are, luckily, not many options to choose from when it comes down to backend. So like there are serverless solutions, cloud databases with REST APIs out of the box, but we are more of a traditional full stack developer. So we implement our own REST APIs. And I mean, there are only like a dozen very, very popular languages to choose from, each having only half a dozen popular web service libraries. So we might know like what, a few of them if we are very proficient. That's enough to be a full stack, right? I hope so. But then again, how does our site communicate with said backend to get the data? Surely there is REST, as I said before, but I mean there is also SOAP, or maybe we'll use WebRTC, maybe WebSocket, maybe others. Which one must we know to be considered a full stack? Which ones we must know in detail? I guess companies always just mean REST. I won't even get into like knee deep into databases and caching and queuing technologies and full principles like security or DevOps. I mean, good full stack should be able to hold their CI/CD. Am I right? Suffice to say, for full stack developer, for being considered a full stack developer, we need to deploy and automatically check the application we developed, which needs caching, so it's fast, needs databases to permanently store data, and I mean it needs to be secure through and through. We must also know cloud services well. Obviously, there are, luckily again, only like 100+ services on Amazon Cloud, AWS, which is, I mean, only just one of the 3 major providers, but no big deal. True full stack developer knows it all, even Hana. Companies, when they are looking for a full stack, they straight up lie. I hope it's clear now. Mostly they want a backend engineer for a specific cloud vendor, a specific database, and specific frameworks, both front and backend. AKA, they are looking for Stan. And by the way, I have recently written an article about the different tech interview types, and looking for Stan or Stans is one of them. So if you're interested, please find a link in the description and do read it. But these companies won't just admit they are looking for a backend developer, because they also want a front end for their product. Now, properly designed front end is no lesser of a challenge to create than its backend. Some companies realize this after failing miserably due to lack of front-end expertise on board. Then comes along some bright soul and suggests to hire full-stack engineers. Back in the day, I had the pleasure to be a backend developer on one such project, burning millions for nothing. The same outcome is also reachable with competent engineers who could learn more about front-end and could focus more on it, but are not willing to, and it happened in that case as well. It's actually quite common among seasoned veteran backend developers. So this was when they mean backend developer, when they say full stack. But then comes the full stack when they mean front-end engineer, but please don't be a bootcamp guy. And yes, bootcamps were the epitome of the phenomenon of flocking to development for the promise of little work for huge salary. Get to a high-paying position in the shortest time possible. That was the promise. Companies don't want to go through 200 CVs with some 2 years of experience in only one specific framework, especially now that demand is temporarily lower. So they lie, they are looking for a unicorn. Jokes on them really, because now bootcamps are all full stack and AI focused, and no one in their right mind leaves out the smallest backend or front-end experience they might have from their CVs. So companies say full stack and actually mean front-end and backend engineers that are not helpless outside of their expertise. It's just natural that we lie to them that we are full stack engineers. I mean, of course, there are some delusional people out there to honestly claim to be full stack, whatever. Many, if not most, are just happy if they don't have a healthy dose of imposter syndrome each morning working in their field with the technologies they are most proficient in. And now these same people must pretend they are the imaginary STEM companies envision. They lie to us, so we lie to them. Fair. The alternative, and I'm proud to know examples firsthand, is when the company lists a bunch of technologies as the stack they are currently using. By the way, this stack changes by the whims of higher management and the pricing they get from the providers. So it doesn't mean anything really, but they list it as the current stack. So they list it and they say, okay, we'd prefer a candidate who has worked with some of the object-oriented languages out there, preferably, and willing to learn this stack. And that's about it. Chances are they will get a pretty smart candidate from probably other fields instead of competing for the potentially like 2 existing stands out there for months on end, or just, lower the bar and hire whoever. When companies have proper retention policies and care whether average tenure is 2 years or 6 years, then those extra 2 months of ramp up are nothing compared to the long-term gains of a well-performing engineer. Until we collectively stop lying about full stack, I'll keep asking the same question. How full is your stack? Sziasztok!